The Pittsburgh Steelers are on the board, making their first round of roster cuts, which include quarterback Logan Woodside, running back Evan Hall, tight end Kevin Fulsch, offensive lineman Julian Pearl, and Doug Nestor, outside linebacker Kenny Wilkins, corners Mikey Victor, Cam Alexander, Kyler McMichael, and defensive back Quindell Johnson, plus long snapper Jake McQuaid, which means that they've got some really good news coming from Christian Kuntz, who is most likely going to be available come week 1 of the NFL season. I put out my 53-man roster projection today, the last one that I'll put out before week 1, and, well, it did not include Christian Kuntz, who is going to end up on IR. Now he is here, most likely. That's what all signs point to in this situation. But the Pittsburgh Steelers get on the board. Logan Woodside, not a surprise. Evan Hall, not a surprise. And to be honest with you, bodes well for a guy like Lou Nichols, who was impressed during the preseason and during training camp, and may actually have an opportunity to showcase himself a couple more times and earn a place on the practice squad, most likely next to Trey Sermon, who's looked very good throughout the preseason. No surprises in the corner room. I think the Steelers are slowly starting to cut themselves down to the final few before they have to make big decisions on names like Corey Trice and Beanie Bishop and Dante Kent, who will most likely end up on IR for the entire season as a rookie. The Steelers, it just makes sense to be able to shut him down, keep him around for a year, and then test the waters with the 7th round pick next year, much like they did Logan Lee last year. On the offensive line, they pretty much know who they're going with in Ryan McCullum and Spencer Anderson. And on the outside, it's Dylan Cook and Calvin Anderson, most likely competing for a spot. But Andrus Peat maybe is in the mix as they get close to their final decision. There are no surprises. The Pittsburgh Steelers have big decisions to make at quarterback with Skylar Thompson and Will Howard, at running back with Trey Sermon, at wide receiver with pretty much everybody, at corner with Beanie Bishop and James Pierre and Corey Trice. But that's about it. They could look at their roster and say, these are a bunch of guys that are moving on. I'm not surprised by any of them. There will be more. The Steelers will practice tomorrow and Sunday and Monday, and then go into Tuesday, make their roster cuts, finalize their team, and begin from there. I expect more guys to be cut tomorrow and Sunday, and then the final round to come more Tuesday, right after practice at that 4 p.m. mark. But until then, the Pittsburgh Steelers get on the board. Nothing surprising, just a handful of roster options, roster guys who are now off the team for the black and gold.